This presentation is an analysis of chapters 17 to the end of Nathaniel Hawthorne's novel, The Scarlet Letter. Characteristics of Romanticism. Even though The Scarlet Letter takes place in Puritan New England, it was written in 1850 during the Romantic period. The novel is critical of many Puritan beliefs and values and includes many characteristics of Romanticism. Characteristics of Romanticism found in the novel include the following. First, emotion over reason. Hester Prynne and Arthur Dimmesdale are guided by passion, in their case love, and Roger Chillingworth is also guided by passion, in his case revenge. Secondly, an interest in the supernatural. Examples of the supernatural in the novel are the A-shaped meteor, an A shape appearing on Dimmesdale's chest, and Mistress Hibbins and Roger Chillingworth practicing witchcraft. Third, fascination with the past and the exotic, especially the medieval period. The story is written in 1850 but takes place in Puritan New England. Though not the medieval period, it is the past and is a time associated with witchcraft, superstitions, and beliefs in the supernatural. Fourth, nature depicted as good and inspirational. In the forest, Dimmesdale and Prynne can be honest and open with each other. Prynne lets her hair down, and they can plan to live openly as a family because the rules of society don't apply. Romantics see society as evil and corrupt, and the townspeople's punishment of Prynne is portrayed as too severe and unjust. Also, Prynne lives on the outskirts of town between the forest, representing nature, and the town, representing society. And she's also portrayed as one of the more admirable characters since she pays for her sins and shows redemption. Fifth, the individual over society and depiction of society as evil and corrupt. Hester Prynne is depicted as a victim of the cruel judgments of society, especially since her husband seems so evil that one can sympathize with the temptation she gave into when having an affair. And lastly, support for moral enthusiasm or doing good. Hester Prynne dedicates her life to helping the poor, even though she has little herself. Characteristics of Transcendentalism. Transcendentalism in America was influenced by Romanticism, and Nathaniel Hawthorne was influenced by the Transcendentalist movement. The two literary movements are not exactly the same, however. Characteristics of Transcendentalism in The Scarlet Letter are as follows. First, a belief that God is found in nature and that nature is good. The forest is depicted as the one place that Hester Prynne and Arthur Dimmesdale can be open and honest. Pearl also is closely associated with nature, and she is the symbolic representation of Hester Prynne's passion that society forces her to repress. Secondly, support for acts of civil disobedience or nonconformity. Hester is a nonconformist through her decision to commit adultery, refusal to tell who the father of her baby is, and her decision to continue wearing the letter even after society says she doesn't have to. Despite her nonconformity, she is portrayed as one of the most admirable characters in the novel, showing Hawthorne's support for nonconformity. Value of moral enthusiasm. Hester supports the poor and refuses to tell who the father of Pearl is. Fourth, a belief in living life simply and against materialism. Hester lives a simple life with Pearl on the outskirts of town. She is able to provide Pearl with a happy and loving childhood, even though they do not have many material possessions. And lastly, value of individualism and self-reliance. Hester supports herself and Pearl through her needlepoint in their simple life in the cottage on the outskirts of town. She also is determined to change the townspeople's view of her by changing the perception of the letter A, by embellishing it elaborately with needlepoint and wearing it proudly. When she helps the poor and lives a selfless, humble life, she changes people's judgment of her until they say that the letter represents Abel, and eventually say she can remove the letter from her chest. Hester rejects this label too and creates her own identity. Her individualism and self-reliance have earned everyone's respect by the end of the novel. Criticism of Puritanism. Nathaniel Hawthorne does not appear sympathetic towards Puritan society in The Scarlet Letter. Some examples include the following. The townspeople are portrayed as judgmental and intolerant of Hester Prynne's sin of adultery. To make her into a complete outcast for her entire life seems overly harsh, especially since the man involved equally in her sin has taken no public responsibility. Since she is remorseful and chooses to wear the scarlet letter throughout her entire life and dedicates her life to helping the poor, the reader can sympathize with Prynne. Secondly, the Puritans saw nature as evil and the forest as the stomping ground of the devil, whereas Hawthorne depicts nature as good through showing that the forest is the one place Prynne and Dimmesdale can be open and honest. Thirdly, Puritans are shown as hypocritical in how they refuse to see Dimmesdale as equally guilty of the sin of adultery with Prynne, yet she alone is scorned and punished. Even after he openly admits his involvement in the final scaffold scene, they do not condemn him for his sin, as well as for not coming forward publicly for so long. Fourth, Hawthorne seems critical of the puritanical fear of passion. He shows this by making Prynne's husband, Roger Chillingworth, with his insatiable desire for revenge, seem more morally corrupt than Prynne and Dimmesdale for their sin of adultery. And lastly, the novel seems critical of the Puritan treatment of women, since Hester Prynne ends up suffering alone for the sin of adultery and is harshly judged, while Dimmesdale does not take responsibility for his sin until right before he dies. The fact that Dimmesdale suffers from guilt so intensely may be Hawthorne's way of showing that he deserves to suffer for allowing Prynne to be made into a complete social outcast, while he continues to be seen as an upstanding and morally superior minister by the rest of society. Some significant quotes in the conclusion of the novel. The conclusion includes several significant quotes, including the following. The meaning of the Scarlet Letter is shown to have evolved into what Hester wants it to mean, as opposed to what it was initially imposed upon her, as shown in the lines, "But in the lapse of the toilsome, thoughtful, and self-devoted years that made up Hester's life, the Scarlet Letter ceased to be a stigma which attracted the world's scorn and bitterness, and became a type of something to be sorrowed over, and looked upon with awe, yet with reverence too." Hester Prynne's selflessness, as well as the unfair treatment of women by the Puritans, are shown in the quote in chapter 24. "And as Hester Prynne had no selfish ends, nor lived in any measure for her own profit and enjoyment, people brought all their sorrows and perplexities and sought her counsel, as one who had herself gone through a mighty trouble. Women, more especially, in the continuing reoccurring trials of wounded, wasted, wronged, misplaced, or erring and sinful passion, or with the dreary burden of a heart unyielded because unvalued and unsought, came to Hester's cottage, demanding why they were so wretched, and what the remedy. Hester comforted and counseled them as best she might. She assured them, too, of her firm belief that at some brighter period, when the world should have grown ripe for it, in heaven's own time, a new truth would be revealed, in order to establish the whole relation between man and woman on a surer ground of mutual happiness. Also in chapter 24, Roger Chillingworth is revealed for the stock character he is, representing pure evil, when after Dimmesdale's death he has no reason for revenge anymore, and since revenge had become his sole purpose in life, he no longer has a reason to live. Nothing was more remarkable than the change which took place almost immediately after Dimmesdale's death in the appearance and demeanor of the old man known as Roger Chillingworth. All his strength and energy, all his vital and intellectual force, seemed at once to desert him, insomuch that he positively withered up, shriveled away, and almost vanished from moral sight, like an uprooted weed that lies wilting in the sun. This unhappy man had made the very principle of his life to consist in the pursuit and systematic exercise of revenge.